Welcome. I'm Kinetic Symphony. I hunt down and report on weird and true mysterious stories, from glitches to the paranormal. Case file number 1365, written by burlierquill, Dragonfly 813. A few years back, my grandfather passed away and my mother used a symbol of a dragonfly as a sign that he was with her. Anytime she saw a dragonfly, she knew he was with her. Flash forward a few years and my sister moves off to college and her room number is 813. I don't think anything of it until the following year when I moved off to college, a different school should add, and get the same room number 813. Finding this interesting, my mom looks up the number 813 to see what it means, and sure enough, 813 is the number of the dragonfly. Something to do with how the numbers form a dragonfly. Even more insane is that I moved in before my roommate, so I got to pick my side of the room, and the side I ended up choosing had a tiny little dragonfly pushpin left in the corkboard from the previous residence. I tend not to get caught up in things like this, but I truly could not find even the slightly logical explanation for any of this. Case notes of file 1365, Dragonfly 813. It's kinda hard to conceive of a more interesting method to say hello to loved ones than this, because it's subtle at first, but then there's a wave of realization that just crashes into you when you consider how many spiritual things your grandfather would have had to pull in order to accomplish this, in order to orient your sister and yourself into precisely these rooms, and that bunk for you with the little pin of the dragonfly. Wow, I'm very impressed, honestly. This is just a cool story of a grandfather who wanted to be known again. Case file number 1366, written by AMLT, 1983. Ghosts of relationships past, present, and future. I'll start off with, I don't believe in ghosts or spirits or alien abductions or missing time and any of that, but I was in college and in a long-distance relationship with my girlfriend in another state. We tried to make it work, but I broke up with her. While it was the correct decision, I didn't handle it correctly, and I knew I broke her heart. I worked at a small hardware store when I was in high school, and I went back to grab something in electrical, and someone grabbed my hand. Somehow, immediately, I was visited by three spirits essentially, like Scrooge. Ghost of girlfriend, past, present, and future. I saw my girlfriend crying when I broke up on the phone with her in her dorm room. What she said, what color her bedspread was, everything. Years later when we met up, and I asked about when we broke up, and I told her I could complete her sentences about what happened. Stuff no one except her knew. Girlfriend's present and future visits. I don't recall much of the present, I think I saw her slowly moving on, but the future was spot on of her marrying like an Air Force pilot, adopting a deaf child from China, and living in Hawaii. Like spot on, exactly what happened. When I was left from the visitors, I was back on that aisle, and my bosses thought I had left 2 hours ago because no one had seen or heard from me. When they checked the camera at my request, only cameras were on the main aisles, they saw me walk into the aisle and 2 hours later walk out of that aisle. No footage of me for 2 hours leaving it or anyone else going on that aisle before me or during the missing time. I think about this a lot. Case notes of file 1366. Ghosts of relationships past, present, and future. So first I want to add a little note regarding breakups. It's true in one sense of the coin, that you're causing heartache and pain to someone you presumably love or at least liked a lot. But if you're being honest with yourself, and don't see yourself happy with them long term, it's a form of kindness. If you're not happy, there's no way they would be either in the deep of the future. In a nutshell, you're not a bad person for breaking up with them, if the reasoning was along those lines. That said, breaking up with someone is never an easy thing to do, and if you do it wrong, well, you can cause more pain than necessary. But no one's perfect, so don't beat yourself up too much if you fumble the ball. Now, seeing into the future isn't the real mystery here. It does happen quite a lot, or soul projecting to witness current events happening now in the present. But the missing time, confirmed via security camera footage, that's just wild. I think this may have been your guardian angel interfering more directly than they usually do, just to show you that she's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. She's going to go on and build herself a good life, and it's okay that you broke up. You don't have to concern yourself with that. If the future didn't come to pass, then I would say, oh, it's just your mind, your subconscious trying to ease you yourself. And at the time this happened to you, maybe that's what I would have said, but Given that indeed this did predict the future, what actually would happen to her, it's pretty clear what happened. Some force, maybe a guardian angel, makes the most sense to me, wanted you to feel at ease. Mission accomplished, I hope. Bonus file written by Rubber Soul 93, The Whispering Pines. About 6 years ago, I was at my boyfriend's house, now fiancé. He lived in a secluded area down a dirt road. There were other houses, but his property was very private and surrounded by trees and woods, and houses were not very close together. You could only ever see the closest neighbor's house through the trees during fall and winter, after the leaves fell. The house and property never really felt welcoming. I'm not sure how to explain exactly, but I never enjoyed being outside there, even though it was a beautiful and quiet place. There was a large deck, but we never used it. There were woods all around the house, and in the woods was a weird pond that the dogs would sometimes play in. I went to the pond only once, just me and the dogs. There was a foot trail to the pond, and while walking it, I saw what appeared to be very long human hair on the ground. I thought it was strange, but continued to the pond. When I got there, the water was completely black, and I didn't think the dogs should play in it anymore, so I tried to call them back, but they wouldn't come. That was also strange because the dogs were always so well behaved and always came when I called them. I went about my day, not thinking much more about this particular incident, but I still continued to think about the pond and the woods and the strange feeling I got while I was there, but I would always brush it off. Later on in our relationship, I ended up moving in with him. It was very dark out there at night, and there were no floodlights. It was a manufactured home that sat on a foundation, and the windows and doors were probably about 8 feet off the ground. We were huge night owls and worked swing shifts, and it was 2 a.m. on a weeknight when this happened. We had the bedroom window open, and it had no screen. We didn't have air conditioning, and we lived in the south at the time, so it was hot during the summer. Anyways, we were just hanging out and had some music playing, and I was sitting on the bed with my legs crossed, back facing the window. My fiancé is sitting at a small table facing me. Suddenly, the hair on my arms stand up, and I get goosebumps all over my body. My fiancé randomly stands up, and all I can hear next is footsteps outside, like someone running towards the window and getting close fast. I stood up so fast and screamed. I don't know why I screamed, but I did. I felt an overwhelming sense of dread and fear. By the time I was standing up and had turned around, the curtains were flying around like a strong gust of wind was blowing them. But it was so still and quiet outside that night, and there was no wind. The curtains settled almost immediately, and all was silent again. We both saw it, both felt it, and couldn't explain it. We have only talked about it twice, the night it happened and the next day. We've never spoken about it again, and it still scares the crap out of me. I've only lived there for 8 months before we moved out of state, but thinking back on it now, I don't think we were ever alone out there. Case notes for the bonus file, The Whispering Pines. As humans, we have a very sharp sense to unusual presences. Animals do too, but I think our ability to sense danger is at times even more pronounced. At least, we can sense danger from virtually no input at all, when there's effectively nothing to go on whatsoever. People often underestimate their ability to know when danger lurks around each corner, or in this case, behind a pine tree. It's a real and potent kind of spidey sense, without any comic mutations required. Embrace this power. Could save your life one day, seriously. And I have no idea what was actually out there. Was it just a human being trying to break in but realized people were there when you screamed? Or was it some supernatural entity? I guess you'll never know. And that's a good thing. And now time for the quote of the day. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. But raptors are pretty scary too. Devin J. Monroe. Ah yes, the raptors. First time I watched Jurassic Park, I think I was like 10 or something like that. My dad showed it to me. My dad would show me a lot of movies that maybe weren't ideal for my age range, but I'm okay with that at this point. But I was pretty terrified. There's nothing, a giant T-Rex is menacing, and we have a whole mythos about that, with an exaggerated version in Godzilla, just destroying buildings and everything. Not what you want to wake up to, let's just say. But yes, only fear itself unless there's a raptor chasing you. Then you can fear the raptor too. 100%. Like the video, subscribe, hit the bell. Kinetic Symphony signing off.